I don't think we've met or been introduced. My name's Ray Majewski, and I'm one of the current Extended Reality XR 3D Artist Fellows here at the Center of Academic Innovation and the XR Initiative team. I'm a second year Masters of Architecture student, and I've only been with the initiative for one semester, and it's been like such an incredible experience, sort of like working with such an accomplished and professional team that is realizing some really great work. But it's also been really great to contribute my studies in like object design or sort of spatial design and see how I can sort of like work within the team to add sort of like different levels of detail to a project that are coming to conclusion within its final stages. I inherited coming in January a lot of work done from other 3D artists, so I got to first honor their amazing work. And sort of like I've been taking it into the final stages and trying to understand how can we do that next level to meet the creative intent of the partners we're working with. Before I begin, I really want to explain what the XR initiative is so that I'm not excluding anyone that maybe hasn't heard of our work or isn't familiar with the technologies or our mission statement. So the XR initiative, founded in September 2019, actively engages with the University of Michigan community with knowledge and content through immersive technologies. So the initiative considers how to leverage this XR technology, all while strengthening the quality of Michigan education and trying to foster an interdisciplinary scholarly community and trying to enhance a nationwide network of academic innovation. Sort of like many institutions are getting this technology within their walls, and we're all trying to figure out sort of like what's the best way to sort of facilitate or encourage this use and understand the potentials of it within practices that may be a bit traditional, and trying to see like what we can do that had never been done before. So as a 3D artist, my work, at least like the immersion into the 3D art world, was quite easy from architecture because oftentimes we're doing 3D models or drawing sets or sketching and doing iterative process and trying to communicate these ideas with partners and clients. And sort of like as a 3D artist, it's no different. You're just working with different scales. So anything in the digital, you could have a house or an elephant, like massive, and then you scale it down and it's very tiny, but it's all kind of unitless just without the data. Like as an artist, you work in different mediums or different styles. And with a digital environment, it's the same thing applies. But specifically for the projects here, you can think of it as like photorealistic or spatial replication. So the goals have been trying to take like images of like archival stuff, and we'll talk about this in some of the projects in a second, but take this observation from the archives and translate it into assets so that you're transported back to a scene. And that's like really like a level of storytelling of how you're placing someone within an environment that's themed to like how they should be. But the critical part of my practice or like my process that I learned in architecture school that's really helped with being a 3D artist is seeing or like critical observation. So like how do you understand why things are the way they are? How do you see things and why do they exist like that? And sort of how have humans or sort of the use of the object given it sort of character or personality? Every object has a story. It's just really about unpacking it. So you can think about a desk with a ton of ink spills versus a ton of coffee spills, or there might be desks that have like cigarette marks on it, and you got to think like, oh, why are those there? And so you use your imagination to think through. And when you're trying to design more organically in a digital environment, thinking of these sort of like little moments is really what brings it to the next level. And trying to find those vignettes is my whole goal. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the projects, sort of like behind me, you've been seeing some of the content that I've been talking about. And I thought this would be a really cool way to talk about sort of some of the work, but we're going to head out to the Duderstadt and I'm going to show you some of the projects that I've been working on and how some of these skills of critical observation have applied to my work. So join me along, let's go.
Welcome to the XR initiative at the Visualization Lab in the Duderstadt Center. On my screen here, I brought up one of the grantee projects. We have the Nuclear Reactor Laboratory, a radiation-free environment to learn how a nuclear reactor works. So as I stated, as a 3D artist, my goal is to sort of like observe objects and bring organic detail into the digital space to make someone feel more comfortable or spatial aware. And in this specific project, the goal was to get the grime that makes a space feel lived in The past operators, students, and faculty sort of stepping into the VR space noted that it's just too clean, and that all the archival footage sort of featured some disarray, and that dirtiness actually became a nostalgia for some of the past people that worked here. And the building, the Michigan Memorial Phoenix project with the Ford nuclear reactor, was the first building on campus, North Campus, in 1955, and this photo in 61 or 62 shows it. But in 2002, it was decommissioned, and for the 20th year anniversary, there's been a showing, and this digital space has been used for experiments and student learning. This image from about 1990-ish is the clearest image we have, but you can see sort of some of the main artifacts and textural moments and what the stories may tell. You can see sort of like a yellow bridge with the Michigan colors sort of around the pool, or even some of the experiments in the back. I was told that some of these cabinets moved in and out over the years based on which initiatives and sort of like project cycles we're going through. You can usually tell the decade from the archival images based on the clothing of the people within the scenes, but you can also tell the hardware by the hardware about how large the case and units are and what they minimize to over time, or sort of where they're being placed. And a lot of these archival images sort of feature some spectacular moments, like the glow from the core as sort of they're running an experiment within it. And as we start to try and get this as we start to replicate this experience within the digital environment, like you can see here, the grime built on the tiles from the water in the pool, or even the glow and the scratches on the experiment tubes, as if when they were dropping down, objects within the digital scene has scratched up the pipes. And for moments that you can't see sort of around the scene from based on archival images, you have to look at the floor plans and sort of use your imagination to understand what might actually be there, or what teams might have done within that space. And here's an image from the digital experience. As you can see, we can get pretty close with understanding sort of like what a top view may be like. This is a past or like an old image, so there's some parts that have been redone, but you can sort of see the process that we were working through. And what's really exciting about this image is that this view never existed within any of the archival images, but we were able to reconstruct it after building out the digital scene. And really where like the objects come into play is when you start to see key components or assets that are essential to the operation of the nuclear reactor or anything you're building out in the digital scene, like this reading wall of the control panel room. We started to like reconstruct it like here within 3D modeling it based on the archival images and placing it back into the scene so that it starts to build that next level of immersion when you're in the room. And, you know, there's a lot of non-essential objects too, like this desk that was spotted in the background of many images. So just understanding that Steelcase is a company within Michigan, I figured it would probably be the company that fabricated this, and that was correct. So I searched 1960 Steelcase desk and was able to pull this image from Facebook Marketplace to help me model the desk and understand the proportions or sort of character, and also the parts to where there may be wear and tear from human use while using this desk. And as an Easter egg for maybe someone listening or people that step into the scene, I was working with like the past operation manuals and reading some of the stuff and was able to place it back into the digital scene as sort of a funny moment if anyone sort of stumbles upon it and sees it. But really, like, the immersion is about understanding these objects and building up the story so that when you step inside, you feel part of the scene. And placing floor plans along doorways like you would see today based upon building code, or even smearing chalk on the chalkboard. All these little details really do build up to creating some sense as if time had done the work and not the artists themselves. And I would really like to thank the XR team for the initiative to work with you all and sort of work on these projects, but also the Center of Academic Innovation for allowing me to share these stories with you and sort of have a platform to talk about the work I've been doing. Thank you for the opportunities. Feel free to reach out. Once again, my name is Ray Majewski, and I'm one of the current Extended Reality 3D Artist Fellows with the XR Institute. Thank you very much.